landmark in Romanian history.
Prezența dumneavoastră aici confirmă interesul pe care Statele Unite îl acordă parteneriatului strategic dintre România și Statele Unite.
Your presence here confirms the importance that the United States grants to the strategic partnership with Romania and the United States.
Și vă asigur că Guvernul României va face tot ceea ce îi stă în putință pentru consolidarea și extinderea acestui parteneriat strategic.
And I would like to assure you that the government of Romania will do its best to strengthen and expand this strategic partnership.
Componenta politico-militară a parteneriatului strategic este una foarte importantă.
The political military component of the strategic partnership is very important.
Iar prezența dumneavoastră astăzi la București are loc în contextul în care Ministerul de Externe, prin domnul ministru Bogdan Aurescu, a organizat întâlnirea ministrilor de externe ai NATO.
And your presence here today in Bucharest is in the context where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Romania, together with Minister Aurescu, have organized the meeting of NATO foreign ministers.
Întâlnire care are loc la scurt timp după summitul de la Madrid.
Meeting which takes place shortly after the Madrid summit.
Și pentru prima dată după ce România a găzduit primul summit NATO în 2008, tot aici la București.
And for the first time since Romania hosted the 2008 NATO summit in Bucharest.
Revenind la dimensiunea politico-militară, vreau să vă mulțumesc pentru angajamentul Statelor Unite, pentru prezența Armatei Statelor Unite în România și importanța pe care o acordați întăririi, descurajării și apărării pe flancul estic al Alianței Nord-Atlantice.
Going back to the political military component of our strategic partnership, I would like to thank you for the U.S. commitment to deterrence, defense and strengthening the Eastern Flank.
Desigur, dimensiunea economică este una foarte importantă și, de asemenea, trebuie să apreciez cooperarea economică și creșterea investițiilor americane în România.
Of course, the economic component of the strategic partnership is also very important, and I would like to appreciate the increase of U.S. investment in Romania.
În acest context, energia a devenit un subiect mult mai important decât ne-am fi gândit cu ceva timp în urmă.
In this context, energy has become much more important than we would have thought a little while ago.
Vreau să subliniez faptul că avem o colaborare în domeniul nuclear civil și intenția Statelor Unite de a finanța construcția reactoarelor 3 și 4 deja s-a materializat prin acea ofertă de 3 miliarde, este de asemenea de subliniat ca fiind un element important al parteneriatului strategic.
I'd like to emphasize the cooperation, bilateral cooperation in the nuclear field, and the fact that the U.S. government has committed to fund the number 3 and number 4 reactors in Chernobyl with $3 billion also highlights this strategic partnership.
De asemenea, dezvoltarea reactoarelor modulare mici reprezintă un domeniu de cooperare foarte important între specialiștii din Statele Unite și țara noastră, pentru că tehnologia vine din Statele Unite și a fost deja ales.
Ascultăm acum primele discuții între secretarul de stat american Antony Blinken și premierul român Nicolae Ciucă. Astăzi vor avea loc o serie de întâlniri între secretarul de stat american, atât cu președintele Klaus Iohannis, cu ministrul de externe Bogdan Aurescu, dar și cu secretarul de stat al NATO Jens Stoltenberg. Vor fi multe discuții, în principal pe situația din Ucraina și pe perspectivele de apărare ale flancului estic pe care NATO le propune în cadrul acestei întâlniri, dar se vor discuta și subiecte și teme economice. Vom urmări declarațiile și revenim cu update-uri.
Step up our support, not least air defense systems to help Ukraine defend themselves against all the air and defense attacks they are now facing. Then, of course, as you well know, Romania is also hosting many refugees. Millions of refugees have crossed the border. Many stay in Romania. Others go on to other countries in Europe. But, of course, this is also a demonstration of Romania's generous support to Ukraine and Ukrainians, and also those who have to flee their own country. Then I think we have to understand that when the invasion happened, NATO was not taken by surprise. Actually, we have been preparing, we have been ready to face situations like this since we started a big adaptation of NATO in 2014. The war didn't start in February this year. The war started the spring of 2014. And since then, NATO has implemented the biggest reinforcement, the biggest adaptation of our alliance since the end of the Cold War, with more presence in the eastern part of the alliance, with high readiness of forces, with more defense spending, including from Romania, and 2%, and many other allies. We had intelligence many months before, actually in the fall of 2021, last year, that Russia was planning to attack a full-fledged invasion of Ukraine. We shared that intelligence with all allies and actually with the public. So when they invaded, that was no surprise. Meaning that actually in the lead up to the invasion, we have already further increased our presence. I myself visited the MK base in Romania. I think it was early February, at least before the invasion. Then we saw US troops, other NATO troops, and also French troops increasing their presence. And then when we had the invasion the same morning, early in the morning, we activated our defense plans and decided to further increase our presence. So it's not as we're totally unprepared for in a way 8 years, so from 2014 to 2022, and then suddenly wake up in the morning and start to act. We have acted over a long period of time. We actually stepped up in the weeks ahead of the invasion, and then after the invasion, many allies, but not least France, leading the battle group, have further increased their presence. This is backed by significant naval power in the Black Sea, in the Baltic Sea, and in the Mediterranean, and also with a lot of air power, and we can quickly reinforce even more if needed.
Do we have another question? Okay, please.
Michał Baranowski, GMF, Warsaw, Poland. Secretary General, first of all, thank you very much for your leadership. I have two questions. One is about Ukraine's relations and eventual membership at NATO. We all remember that in 2008, the alliance has said there was an agreement that Ukraine and Georgia will be members. Of course, since then, they asked to be part of the alliance. Where are we in this process? How would you define the relationship between alliance and Ukraine in the coming months? The second one, if I may, is about the Vilnius summit in July this year. What is alliance's ambition when it comes to the force structure? I agree with what you said, that alliance has responded very quickly. Also, our American allies have been very quick in responding ahead of February 24th, but what can we expect post-Vilnius to really address this issue on the longer term? Thanks.
First, on Ukraine, you asked me to define our relationship. Well, our relationship is a very close partnership. It is a relationship where NATO allies have proven their willingness to support Ukraine in an unprecedented way. We have never seen support to any other country in the same way that NATO allies, partners from Australia to New Zealand, of course, working together with the European Union and many others, are providing to Ukraine. And of course the military support is the most critical one, that is coordinated in what we call the US-led Rammstein format. NATO allies and NATO participate in that, but it goes beyond there. There's a global effort to provide support to Ukraine. So this is unprecedented. Let me also say that, again, this didn't start in February this year. I was in Ukraine, I was in Lviv and also in Yavoriv, where it was a training center, one of the training centers that was actually bombed very early in the war. And there I was there in 2014, and there I saw Canadian troops, British troops, and US troops training Ukrainian troops. So the reality was that when the invasion happened in February this year, compared to 2014, the Ukrainian troops were and armed forces were much better trained, they were much bigger, much better equipped, and much better led. That's one of the main reasons why they were able to fight back. So the reality is that the partnership, the support that NATO allies have provided for many years, training tens of thousands of troops also up till the invasion, that has proven to be extremely critical and extremely important, demonstrating the close partnership. Of course, the gains and the victories the Ukrainians have made, that belongs to the bravery, to the courage of the Ukrainian troops and armed forces. But it has been critical that they have received support from partners in NATO, and we will continue to do so. Then, yes, you are right. We made a decision in Bucharest in 2008 at the summit. I was there as a young, not so young, but not as old as today, as representing Norway as Prime Minister. I remember very well the decisions. We stand by those decisions. NATO's door is open. We have demonstrated that NATO's door is open by recently allowing Montenegro and North Macedonia to become members, despite heavy Russian protests, demonstrating that Russia does not have a veto. It's for the 30 allies and the Aspen countries to decide on membership, no one else. And now Putin invaded Ukraine, saying that he wants less NATO on his borders. He's getting the opposite. He's getting more presence of NATO troops in the eastern part of the alliance, and he will get Finland and Sweden as NATO members. So we demonstrate that NATO's door is open, not only in words but in deeds, and that was part of the decision we made in Bucharest. Then we also made a decision on Ukraine specifically, and we stand by that too, on membership for Ukraine. At the same time, the main focus now is on supporting Ukraine, ensuring that President Putin doesn't win, but that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe. And that's the main focus of our alliance, and that's also the main focus of our partnership. Then I realized that there were actually two questions. Yeah.
It was announced.
Yeah, I know. But the problem is the questions are precise and short. The answers are long and not so short.
Okay. We need the answers.
No. Then on Vilnius and force structure. Also, first of all, I can never tell you exactly what 30 heads of state and government will decide when they meet. They tend to have their own opinions. But I expect that we will build on what we agreed in Madrid this year. We've actually made important decisions on force structure, on strengthening further NATO, and building on what we have done since 2014. Because we are in the midst of the biggest reinforcement of our collective defense. We have done a lot. The messages from Madrid, and I believe that we will also build on that and make decisions on more details on how to implement. It is a mixture of partly more presence in the East. We have already doubled.
Am auzit mai devreme declarațiile secretarului general al NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, care a vorbit despre relația NATO și a statelor membre NATO cu Ucraina și a subliniat el în mai multe rânduri ideea că războiul din Ucraina nu a început în luna februarie acestui an, ci odată cu anexarea Crimeei de către Rusia. Spune el că NATO a fost pregătit pentru acest război din Ucraina. A menționat de mai multe ori sprijinul pe care fiecare stat membru în parte l-a acordat Ucrainei, chiar dacă Ucraina Ucraina nu face parte din această alianță. Jens Stoltenberg a mai vorbit și despre provocările care apar la Marea Neagră în contextul invaziei ruse din Ucraina și despre soluțiile care se vor căuta și care se vor propune la discuțiile de la Ministeriala NATO de la București, care are loc astăzi și mâine. El a vorbit despre ajutorul și rolul României în acest conflict. A vorbit și a reamintit din nou despre tot ajutorul oferit atât din punct de vedere tactic și militar, dar în primul rând despre solidaritatea arătată de țara noastră către poporul ucrainean, mai ales la începutul războiului, atunci când mii de oameni au ajuns în România, dar și în alte state de la granița cu Ucraina. S-au propus deja câteva obiective care se vor discuta și se vor stabili în mod concret în urma discuțiilor de astăzi. Jens Stoltenberg va avea și el mai multe discuții astăzi, dar și mâine se va întâlni și cu secretarul de stat american Antony Blinken, care de asemenea va anunța un nou pachet de ajutor pentru Ucraina din punct de vedere al energiei electrice. Știm foarte bine că sunt în acest moment milioane de oameni în Ucraina care nu au electricitate, apă sau căldură. Vom reveni la declarațiile lui Jens Stoltenberg pe parcursul zilei pentru a vedea care este viziunea pe termen scurt, mediu și lung a NATO pentru agresiunea Rusiei din Ucraina.
But it is about the North Atlantic region, North America and Europe, seeing that China is coming close to us.